the team is the most important thing. It has to be about the team. Can't be about me. Can't be about the staff. Can't be about the best player. It's got to be about the best team.
Welcome, Steve Hoffman, to the Young Athletic. Thanks for being here. How are you doing today?
I'm doing good, mate.
Does anybody call you Steve, or they call you Hoffy?
Just call me Hoffy, mate.
Yeah? Everybody calls you Hoffy?
Yeah, everybody calls me Hoffy.
Players, fellow coaches?
Yeah.
Okay, Hoffy. Welcome, Hoffy.
There's another Hoffy as well, just so you know, with U.S. Soccer.
Oh, I don't know that.
Jay Hoffman. He's my brother from another mother.
Okay.
So, yeah,
is he here in California as well?
No, he lives on the East Coast, but he's a big shot with U.S. Soccer. But he's
cool.
we're good friends, so we have a good bit of banter when we're together.
I see.
But he's American kid.
Well, welcome, Hoffy. I was thinking last night, like, what do I ask the encyclopedia of Cal South Soccer? And I thought it'd be fun to start sort of at the end. I was thinking, like, what would be a good title for this video? And I was thinking, like, how to be a soccer coach would be the title. And so I just want to ask you 5 things you would say are essential things a soccer coach needs.
Ooh. I think the one thing I would say is it's changed.
Yeah?
Oh, yeah. From 5 years ago to now, it's changed. You're going to have patience. Mm-hmm. You've got to have empathy. That's 2 things. And you've got to, you've got to be able to deal with parents. That's the patience piece, right? We're not even talking about football yet, have we? And then the rest of it is obviously be organized and make sure you work with the kids to develop the kids. Forget about the winning perception and, just performance equals success. Every manager in the world, whether it's pro or whatever you listen to, tells you the same thing, whether it's Jurgen Klopp or even the game yesterday, right, with Chelsea and United.
Yeah.
At the end of that game, performance won the game, because they never stopped. So, we place too much emphasis on winning. So they're the things, and you got to be resilient, man. You're going to get knocks. You're going to lose games. But the difference these days is when you lose a game, the parents are all over you. They want you fired. They want to get somebody else in. So it's difficult. So you got to learn to deal with those parents.
So I just want to write that down. Performance is success, not results.
Performance equals success, yeah. Because if you train and you play well, if you think about it, you got the job. I mean, we would do a little experiment when we did ODP, and this is to do with coaching, right? So I'd stand up and I'd say to the kids, parents, how many of you played soccer? And we could have 200 in the gym at VC, because there's about 100 kids, right? And 20 had put their hands up. So I say, also, 20 of you have actually played the game of soccer. Okay, great. Kids, what's it like when you've just lost a game and you're driving home in the car with your parents, who only 20 have played soccer? What's the banter like on the way home? You just lost, played terrible. What's the banter like? And the kids would go, ooh, and it would be pretty damn loud, right? So then I'd say, well, only 20 played soccer. 80 of you didn't kick a ball. So I said, then I'd rephrase the question and say, what's it like when you've played super, really, really good, and you lost 1-0, or you lost 2-0? What's the drive like home in the car? And the kids would say, hardly any oohs. Mm-hmm. So that tells you that they might not play soccer, but they know what a good performance is. Mm-hmm. And that's all you can do.
Yeah.
That's all you can control. Yeah.
It's interesting. Maybe you can talk a little bit more. I always think about the parent relationship between the parent and the coach, but obviously the parent and the child on that drive home.
Oh, yeah. My
it's important.
Well, because I coached Joey's team, the Ventura team, Ventura Arsenal, from when they were 12 until 18, 19. When they got to about 16, we had a minivan, because we had the soccer mom thing going.
Yeah.
So we'd pick all the kids up, take them to the game, but no one would ride back with us. Just Joe, me, Kathy, and my other 2 kids. So finally one day I said to one of the boys, Ivan, I said, Ivan, what's the deal, man? I come pick you up, take you to the game, and you don't ride at me. You don't come in the car. Yeah. He said, well, have you ever heard yourself talking? So that day, when the kids were 15, I decided that it wasn't my job, it was their team. And I think that's what some people forget. The kids have got to enjoy it. And I was a parent, remember, my kid was playing. So that's the hardest thing in the world, to try not to spill over into your real life, So that day on, from that day on, when we had tryouts with the team, I'd go to the team and say, what do you think? Do you like him? Because it was their team.
Yeah.
And that's carried on even into the college now. Because in them days, you wouldn't have thought about ownership, the kids having ownership. But that's what happened to me. Now at the college, I have the kids create their own culture. So we talk about what do we want to be like, right? Which I would do with any club team I'm with now. And then we have a leadership group, which is 4 players normally, because no longer can you go to the administration and kick a kid off the team without a parent or somebody coming in. So it needs to be a group decision. And then we don't have rules anymore. We have goals and expectations. So think about it with your club team. If you sat the parents in a room and said, right, we're gonna create some goals and expectations. Where do we start? Let's start with practice. Because you know and I know a kid's never late for practice. The parent's late, the kid's never late. So that's what I do at the college now. And the only thing they can't control is attendance because of the COVID situation, the school. That makes it a little bit harder. But that's also changed what we do. So, you know, if I was with a club program, coaching a club team, I would have the parents buy in because once they've done it, they own it. So now when someone's late for practice, hey, you agreed to this. I didn't tell you got to do it. So you're passing that ownership to them. Does it work? I don't know. Works at the college. Works.
So you're saying get the parents to buy in more at the club level because essentially they're the ones responsible for getting their kids on time.
They're the owners.
Yeah.
They're the owners of the club, right? So if you go in there with your list, which I have my list, right, my old list, you know, these are my rules and regulations. I go in there and I make sure that they hit the ones I feel are appropriate. I don't tell them. I just listen, and I might throw out, okay, what if someone misses 3 practices in a row? You know, those types of things. Yeah, how do we handle, you know, Johnny? There's nobody to pick Johnny up. What happens now? You know, the liability for you to take him home as a coach is tremendous. When you're traveling, how the kids behave, you know. So all that stuff, I would have the parents buy into it because if they've got to take ownership, and that's the same with the college players. And I'll be honest with the college players do a great job. They buy in. Then you hold each other accountable. So the parents then are saying, hey, you know what, you didn't bring your kid to practice. I mean, I think Joe just had one last week, and he's really organized. He takes roll every practice. You're here, not here, just like school. So a lady come to him 2 weeks ago, kid's not played much. She said, right, why is my son not playing much? So he looked at his records. He's missed 17 practices since the beginning of the season, 17. She says, yeah, but, you know, this is why. He was at the dentist that day, he was at the doctor's this day, and she didn't get it. She actually didn't get it. She thought he was punishing the kid. And it's like, wait a minute. So she felt he should play no matter what. You know why? I'm paying. So that creates a whole other monster for you, doesn't it? You know what I mean? So I think, now, there's a situation, had the parents bought into it, then maybe other parents could have said something as well, you know.
When you did this with your team, did you do like an open forum with the parents to have them suggest ideas?
Yeah, sticky, you know, Post-its.
Like a whiteboard and everything?
Post-its, 4 or 5 on the board, small groups, 3 parents, 3 parents, 3 parents. Go ahead. What should your culture be? The culture is the most important thing at a club or for a team, right? And if you've got a bad culture, then you're going nowhere. So we decided at VC, they created a Pirates in a way that typifies our culture, right? So we obviously positive environment, you know, going through the pirate name to create what it is. I can't remember what it is off the top of my head, but I've got it on my phone because we're going to print a big poster. But yeah, that, you know, like empathy, safe environment sounds silly. Safe environment is so important. What does that mean? That means that I'm not going to get on them and embarrass them. They're not going to embarrass themselves. No one's going to argue with each other. And of course, when you're dealing with females, you're also dealing with cliques, right? Whatever you want to call them. You know, we've got this group over here, this group over there, this group over there. So it's difficult, you know, it's difficult. And at a community college where you've got the kids, in the season is 13 weeks, 16 weeks with the playoffs. And you get them 4 weeks before that. So this year I've got 20 coming back and I've got 12 coming in. To integrate those 12 into the 20, it's really important that our culture is understanding, because you're coming to take my spot. It's not a 4-year school where you're going to wait, right? So, yeah, you know, that I would say once you get your culture, you know what you want, and your values are in there as well. You know what I mean? And then, like I say, I have the players decide what the goals and expectations were, and performance was one. You know, attitude in training, obviously. You know, give 100% every day. So, you know, when you say something to them as far as it's not as good as it should be, it's up to them to hold each other accountable, and the captains need to step up. So it shouldn't always be on the coach. And if you listen to Liverpool, they've got their leadership group, right? Van Dijk, Andy Robertson, Mo Salah. They're the group. Klopp doesn't deal with anything like that. I mean, and I think that's a great way of doing it for the older kids. The younger kids, you've got to have the parents, unfortunately. Unfortunately. A good friend of mine, Chris Price, who really does really well, he used to own a company called Zara Soccer Uniform Company. So he's retired now. He just stuff for the National Hockey League.
What's his name again?
Chris Price.
Chris Price.
He'd be a good interview for you one of these days. He's down in Orange County. So Chris deals with the reality of having all these parents that are not involved, and he says, it's about what they could do for you if you got them involved. So just last week we had a coach in a coaching school that said, I've got this one parent that's a screamer and a shouter. So I said, well, what you do is you give him a job. Stop him shouting. His kid plays as a centre forward, number 9, and track shots.
Yeah.
Right? Track crosses. Give him work to do. And then, obviously, hopefully he'll shut up. If he doesn't shut up, then you've got another situation to deal with. So, and everybody's a coach, you know that.
That's an important teaching tool to someone who's maybe acting out. You need to give them more specific direction.
Give them direction and video them. Because some people will say, that's not me. Then they see themselves on video and they're like, oh, damn. Yeah. That was out of order, right? But that's stuff you learn over the years, isn't it? How to deal with that. But we talked about it before. Parents are a big part of what you do at your club, and you can't exclude them. The club situation's changed so much in the sense, years ago, 15 years ago, there was a volunteer that was the president of the club. There was a volunteer that was the secretary. There was a volunteer that was the registrar. And over the years, it's transferred out to where the technical director now is the club. Some clubs have a general manager, but basically the technical director. So there's no going to the board for vote. It's my decision, that's it. So that changed a little bit. It's made us more professional, but has it helped us get better soccer players? And that's my biggest concern.
Because the parents aren't as involved, and that's directly related to...
Well, to pay people to be professional people, you've got to give them more than one team. Now, anywhere in the world, no one has more than one team. And we've got kids with 4 teams. And I'm not knocking it because they got to make a living. But how do you know in the coaching circle what's your practice about? How do you design your practice? And you design it from the game. But if you're not at the game on Saturday because you're coaching Johnny's team and you're missing the other 3, how do you know what to work with? And then what you do is you have an assistant or go back to the old parent coach, because you've always got one of them that'll jump in, right? They'll always say, hey, I'll coach my kids' team Saturday, because they don't have to do any work, right? So it makes it difficult, So I think when I say, are we making better players, if we look at the makeup of our men's national team, how many players from Southern California are on that team? Not many. When you go back 10 years, 15 years, you'll see 60% of the team was from Southern Cal.
Yeah, I want to know why we don't have more representation. Because I feel like Southern California is one of the best spots in soccer.
The investment that came from, the likes of Philadelphia, the likes of DC United, those clubs on the East Coast invested millions into their academies. Okay. Whereas on the East Coast, on the West Coast, we only had the Galaxy, right? And we kind of had Chivas for a little while. So they invested a little bit in the academy. Now we've got LAFC. They're both doing a great job. But outside of that, it's still a results-based, organization. Obviously the Fusion's got their MLS Next team, which is great. But the idea for that would be them to have somewhere to go, right? And we don't have that true pathway yet. So, and there's some good kids. But I think if you let's look at Landon Donovan. I mean, he's one of the top ones, right? Landon went into residency for a month and a half, and they got to the quarterfinals of the 20th World Cup twice. Roy Reese, going back a long way, great Irish, great Welsh player. Roy's team made the quarterfinals of the World Cup, semi-finals of the Under-20 World Cup. Now we can't even qualify for it. So, we're picking the players that are big, strong, very athletic. But then if you look at the Premier League, that's the kind of players. The only difference is they're highly skilled and technical. And we're not that technical. I think if you look at Ryan Gravenberg from Liverpool, big guy, great feet, but I don't sense that it's the You know what I mean? It's like,
is he a starter? I don't know.
No, he doesn't. He doesn't start. He comes and they just bought him from Bayern Munich. So I think if Bayern Munich let him go, got to be a reason. But obviously, Klopp likes him. So for me, he's a typical like fantastic physical specimen, like 6'1". But that's all of our players. You know, we've forgotten like LD. Lon Donovan was not tall. Eric Ronaldo, who was one of the top players before, wasn't super tall. So you know, I think.
I kind of feel like we're losing a little bit of soccer in the name of athleticism.
Yeah, I think in the States, athleticism is number one. You know, you got to be an athlete. And I do believe in Europe. You know, I mean, like now, if you're recruiting a goalkeeper in Europe for a pro club, they've got to be over 6'2". That's it. If you're 6 foot, you're probably not going to make it. Which is crazy, really, because if you look at Jorge Campos, not a bad goalkeeper for Mexico, 5'11", 5'7", 5'8", you know. So, but that's the Premier League particularly has changed. But I worry that are we getting better? Do we have better coaches? We certainly don't have better technique. Our technique's never improved all the time I've been doing this, 26 years, and I still see kids kicking the ball wrong. You know, there's so much to be said about repetition. You know, I remember Joe went back a few years ago to watch Liverpool train, and he filmed something, and they were doing the same thing for 20 minutes. Which was like short, long combination. So I'm playing to you, you're playing 35, 40 yards to somebody else. 20 minutes. If you did that in this country, they'd say you're fired. Because we need the TV, you know, the controller.
Entertaining.
Yeah. So what you lose there is quality. You know, we train for 2 hours. Why? When you're a 12-year-old, why are you training for 2 hours? How long's the game? 2 30-minute halves, an hour? But we want to train for 2 hours? So I'm a great believer in you train for the length of the game, but it's got to be training. Mm-hmm. It's got to be like full out. So at the college, we train for 90 minutes every day, hard. Even on a pre-game day, it's still got to be 90 minutes because the game's going to be 90 minutes. You know, and I think another big thing is space. I think California in general, and I'm talking about North and the South, probably the North's a little bit better than we are, but you don't have any space. You have a quarter of a field to train a U16 team. You can't. Spatial awareness is critical in the game and at the back four, how they play. So that hurts us a little bit. And I think we've got more teams with less space now. Before, maybe in Ventura, we had the Ventura Arsenal. We had one club and they had access to quite a lot of fields. Now you've got 5 clubs. You know what I mean? So, And the parent jumping, you know, I'm not happy with you today. I'm going to go somewhere else tomorrow. And then the guy down the street, instead of being a professional and saying, stick with your club team till the end of the year, then come to me. Now it's like, come on, man. Yeah, I love you. So it's tough. You're in a tough world if you're a club coach.
Yeah, no, I had a player leave twice now, right before the season. Last season and this season. I had a player leave a week before.
Yeah, and the sad thing is if they just be upfront with you, you know, that would be the key. But they're not, you know. You know and I know, I've been doing ODP for 26 years. Every single kid's the best, mate. I can give you 10 now on my phone. You know, you guys didn't pick my kid, he's the best. And I say, you know what, then if he's the best, have your coach put a recommendation in. Have your coach put a yeah, but no, I don't want to do it. I want you to look at him. No. Because every kid, for their parents, is the best player in the world.
I want to get to the ODP because I have a lot of questions about that. But I want to go back to the technique. You said, you know, for 30 years, we still haven't improved our technique. So what do we need to do? What is the right technique?
Coaches want to coach tactically, formations. 12 years old, we're coaching formations. If you can't collect a ball and pass a ball correctly, you can't play the game. Right. You know, with working with US Soccer, obviously, on the, you know, we have the 9v9s, 11v11s. I'm sure you're aware of that pathway now. So I was one of the guys that worked with them on that. And one of the biggest things we were worried about was the de-emphasizing of technical training. So years ago, when we did a course, we'd spend 45 minutes on a lofted pass. People don't even know what a lofted pass is these days. Show me a driven ball and the technical application for that. They don't know it. So years ago, we'd spend 45 minutes on each technique. Goalkeeping, 45 minutes, right?
I want to make a video, six techniques or 6 ways to pass a ball.
I mean, you know, that's the thing.
And when to use it, and what players would use it.
And that's functional. But again, we spent time doing that for coaches. because some of these coaches that still come to the coaching school, we just did a coaching school, I'm just doing one right now, a D license, and we got 30 people in it. And 2 of them can coach soccer. But if you fulfill all the requirements of the course, you're going to pass the course.
All right.
Now, are we making them better? Ooh, that's the thing Jimmy and I talked about the weekend. We're making them better at planning. They know how to plan and organize a practice session, which is important.
Very important.
It is important. But when they get on the field, so they plan it in the classroom, and then we go back on the field. And then they have to do what they've planned. And then they start realizing, oh, shoot, this is crazy. The one guy said, this is my masterpiece. I go on the field, and he does it on the field, and he's like, Coach, it's not my masterpiece.
Yeah.
Because what they're doing is they're coaching the activity. They're coaching, oh, you got to go there.
As opposed to the players?
Yes.
Yeah.
And that's the problem when, look at rondos and stuff like that. Great, I got it. So many coaches say, I want to play like Barcelona. You're not Barcelona, pal. Play to the strengths of your players. So this coach is doing a finishing session, not shooting. There's a massive difference between finishing and shooting. Shooting at the goal, finishing in the goal, right? Mm-hmm. So I never talk about shooting. So this guy's doing a finishing activity. The first 4 shots go over the crossbar. So I asked him, are you going to coach them? He said, well, we got the shots off. I said, but why did they miss? Well, one guy was leaning. Okay.
Tell them that.
It's not a matter of telling them, it's a matter of asking them these days. So guided discovery questioning is really important as well. I tell the players that come to Ventura College, if you don't like to think, you don't want to play for me. Because I'm not telling you run there, run that. That's not what I'm doing. You've been playing soccer all your life. Do you need me to tell you when you made a bad pass? So, that's always been my philosophy, right? You don't need to tell people or scream at people. Someday, yourself, some games are really hard. If you look at that Chelsea game yesterday, they were all saying about Mauricio Pochettino, whatever his name is, not being very animated all year. Well, he's had nothing to be animated about. But in that game yesterday, everybody be animated, right? It's brilliant. Yeah. So, you can't do that every day, though, and people don't understand that. I remember when I came to America, and the first couple of times I saw people on the field with their clipboards, because everybody used to have a clipboard. And I've come from England to my FA badge, and I'm thinking, I need to buy me a clipboard, right? But then you realise that they have a clipboard, but they know what the hell they're doing. So forget the clipboard, right? But, in these days now, I think organisation's critical. If you want to put a good session on, do it that way.
What would you say has been like the biggest leap in coaching that you've seen? Maybe like when have coaches improved? Like over what time frame? The last 10 years, 20 years, 5 years? And what have they improved on?
Well, obviously, I think game coaching has gotten better, But if you watch any team, you very rarely see a low block and stuff like that. But you will do it occasionally, and that's partly because you want to win at all costs, right? You don't want to lose. So the good thing is the approach to playing games in Southern California particularly has not changed. People go at each other. They have a
lot of 1v1.
The teams attack. There's no one sat back in a low block, which when you go and play other states, I'll play at Colorado with ODP, and they'll sit back and they'll have 6 at the back, right? So that in Southern California has been great. Coaches' knowledge and understanding of tactics, I think, is a lot better. But I think what they do is they move right to the tactics, and they forget that there's a thing called technique in there. I always remember somebody said to me, well, I ask you, what's the lowest demeanor of tactic you can think about when you think about tactics?
The most simple, I would explain to like the youngest kid is like on defense, get compact, and on offense, get
So that's coaching.
Space.
That's coaching a group of players. Tactics are decision making, right? So when the ball's flighted in the air, where do I collect it? On my left, on my chest, on my thigh? And then where do I play it when I get it? Do I play to my left? Do I play to my right? That's an individual tactic, because tactics are decision making. And we forget that. If you can't collect the ball, pass the ball. That's why we talk about reading and understanding of the game is the most important thing a player can do. Because
the decision making.
That's it.
Yeah.
It's
yeah.
collecting a ball, knowing where to play it, when to play it. And the kids that struggle don't. One of the things that I didn't necessarily agree with US Soccer, obviously I still coach with them, is they would talk about, well, they don't need to have any kind of individual training or out like that. Unfortunately,
They said
because
that?
we feel that you can't uncouple tactics and technique, so they should always be together. What's the difference between technique and skill? Technique's the ability to perform a task without pressure. Skill, that you can do it in the game. So I'd say we got loads of technical players, right? But skill players, that's different, mate. You know what I mean? That's like Messi. That's skill. Right?
Yeah, but like, I always tell my players, like, you need time with the ball. Just like,
Oh, for sure.
spend time at home,
Right.
kicking the ball.
And that's what we did. That's what we did growing up in England. That's what we did growing up in Brazil, right? And the problem we have in America is we can't do that without a coach. So then we go out and we hire a private trainer. And then parents invest in 20 grand and the kids still know better. So it's a vicious circle. But they need to work on technique. And I've always felt that if you're teaching technique, it's got to include pressure of movement or a defender. Because now you're making a decision. So checking to a cone, coming back, collecting a ball, you're going to do that in a game. But just standing there passing the ball back to forward, it's not going to happen, right? So I think it's just a matter of coaches are not teaching that anymore in their sessions. That's why our technique's poor. They're teaching the game. They're teaching the rondo. They're teaching the, whatever you want, whatever, the river game, whatever they're going to do. That's what they're working on with the kids and not spending 30 minutes of every practice working on technique. At the coaching school, we said to them last weekend, you've got your major session. So say your session is building out the back to move the ball forward. Yeah. We told them you have to do a warm-up that incorporates that. Right? So your warm-up should introduce what you're going to work on that day. So you can't go do shooting and then do defending,
right,
which some guys do. And even those coaches that have been in a coaching school for 3 days still struggle with, how do I work that in? What do I do? What players should be involved in that? Right. I mean, I don't know whether you saw the thing with Pep last week where they had the back four and they were doing a little activity backwards and forwards, staying connected, moving side to side, players stepping. So working on pressure, cover, balance. But it was a nice little activity that, you can relate to it. The coaches talk it, but kids need to be shown it. Mm-hmm. So the big thing for me when you do a coaching school is I don't want to hear you talking. I'm sick of hearing that shit. Show it. So if if something's gone wrong, you'd show it. Stop, freeze, show it, put it right. You don't put it right, the kids put it right. So that's a big misnomer. We had a gentleman last weekend that had 12 minutes to teach a session, and 9 minutes were spent talking. Wow. Now he's got his peers, he's got coaches watching him, and I get all that.
So he was coaching an actual session with players
on the field.
On the field.
Yes, and he spoke for 9 minutes.
I feel like when I did that section of the course, they tell you ahead of time, be aware of how long you're talking and introducing.
It doesn't matter.
And he still
no. But I think what it is when you go to a coaching school, you're nervous. You're in front of your peers. You don't want but you can also tell with some people that they like to talk, and there's nothing you can do. I hate it with talking. We have like Sean. Sean comes out, my buddy, and he'll help us at school. And he's more of a educator coach now than a coach, right? Yeah. So he always thinks about the periodization, the amount of time, the effort they're putting in. And when you're in a situation like we're in, where you got a game on Tuesday, a game on Friday, you train Monday and Thursday, those training sessions are only 2 days to work with your kids. Yeah. So you got to push them a little bit. So there's days when you want someone like a Sean to come in. So it's walking, it's talking, asking questions, guided questions. But it can be, so the players will say to me, when's it too much?
Yeah.
So for me, it's like, get on the field, get it going, show it, don't talk it.
Yeah. I feel like I've gotten better at coaching within the last year. Even like the sort of coincided with the C course I took with Joey.
Right.
And it was just like, do less activities and just do them better. Just focus on it, prepare for it right, explain it clearly, and don't rush it. Yeah.
But that's hard because the kids want to move on.
Right. Yeah.
Are we doing that again? Right.
Yeah.
When
I first started coaching, it was like, I had a bunch of activities.
Yes.
And now I have much less, and I try to do them correctly.
That's the key, right? I mean, we always talk in the coaching schools, we're talking about building a weekly session in the D license. So whatever you're working on Tuesday, you should be part 2 on Thursday. And you may have to go the next Tuesday and the next Thursday. And like you say, picking less activities and trying to get the maximum. We know that just saying to kids, so if you say to a kid, create width, they're like, what the hell's width, man? I'm 10, I don't know friggin' width. But if you tell them to spread out, they know what that means, right? So I think with US Soccer's terminology and methodology, that's changed, I think, better for the kids, right? Because now we're talking about, you ask a kid, how can you get the ball forward? How can you move the ball forward? They tell you dribble or pass. It's great. You've answered the question. Let's do it, right? How can you do that if we're all stood together? So we need to spread out. So I think what the coaching schools do is what you said, is that it teaches coaches you don't have to coach everything. Because they ask that question, right?
Yeah.
Are you coaching the defense or the offense? No, I want to work with a focus group. And that's what you're saying. But you do have to work. I mean, it's like, I see people warm up, I'm sure you see this. And everybody on the team's shooting.
As their warm-up?
Yeah.
That's not a warm-up.
Right? But you know what I mean? So it's like, how often is that number 3 or that number 5 going to get in the box to shoot? Yeah. Maybe never. So it's not a functional warm-up. You know, you have your target players do that, whatever. So that's where I think we kind of like, we kind of get on them. That in high school, I have a big thing with high school because, you know, when you talk to players, like I've talked to hundreds of VC, you know, and with the ODP program, the first thing they do is run around the stadium, right? Run around the stadium, run around the field, run around the field. So why is that, you think? Why do they make them run around the field?
Like as their warm-up?
Yeah.
Why do they do that as a warm-up? That's a great question. I do that too sometimes. I have them loosen up to...
It's easy.
Yeah.
Do you run around the pool before you go swimming?
No.
Do you run around the pool table before you play billiards and pool?
Well, no, but you're not running while
Do you run around the dartboard? So, for me, it's like, why are we doing that, you know? The same with the punishment, right? We talk about the punishment, right? You go run. All we're teaching kids is to hate running.
Yeah.
Little kids, when you say, go run, Johnny, you're messed up. I don't have a problem with that kind of, we call it a reward, right? We don't call it a punishment. We say you got a nice reward, you're going to juggle the ball 50 times and come back. So my thing for youth coaches is have them run with the ball. Don't have them run on the field without ball.
Oh, I see.
Because now you're working on dribbling, which is a part of the game. But high school coaches, I think, because of their lack of experience and their knowledge of the game, the easiest thing to do is make them run. But if you talk to players, you know, and they buy into it, the players buy into it because they got to. This is a coach, right? But running up and down stadium stairs and stuff like that it's you know.
Well, we do the dynamic warm up as part of the jog.
Yeah.
We don't do it with the ball. And I understand what you're saying.
I would say when you're under 12-year-old down, as much as you can get the ball with them.
Yeah. This is my older team does it.
Oh, yeah.
Without a ball.
Yeah, no. I mean, we do obviously a dynamic warm up with the college players, but as soon as we can get a ball out, we get a ball out for our pregame. You know, but even for practice every day, you know, you've got to give. First of all, coaching females, that's a whole other game, mate. You know what I mean? Because they got to talk, but they got to talk about the Bachelorette, the Bachelor, whatever it is. So you can come in and get really upset because your session starts at 1, and at 1:10 they're talking about the Bachelor. And you're like, what the hell, right? So I've learned over my years that the kids, our session is 1 to 3. From 1 to 1:15 is their session. Mm. They have to do the FIFA 11, which is a FIFA-organized ACL prevention program, which takes about 5 minutes. They do that.
What is that?
That's just moving. It's directional, jumping, hopping. You know, females don't jump from side to side. Obviously, we know that the ACLs are really, really prevalent. You know, 1 in 4 intercollegiate athletes tear their ACL. Huh. So we do a prevention program, but I tell them it's yours. It's not mine. I'm helping you not get hurt, so you need to do it. So they do that every day. Then they sit down and they spend 10 minutes talking. And then we go, you know, and then from 1:15 to 3 o'clock, they shut the hell up and we train. Yeah. And it works because understanding of who's in front of you, they got to talk. They're social, for crying out loud, you know. The guys, they don't want to get going. They just want to get going. They don't want to do the warm-up, right? They just want to play.
Yeah, yeah.
So, you know, it's like, again, the coaching school teaches you to think about who's in front of you, what age are they, chronologically, if they're little ones, if they're at that age, 12, 13, the golden years, they're going to learn a lot, So that's the fun thing. I always remember coaching the college team on a Friday and then going to coach my granddaughter playing AYSO as a 6-year-old on a Saturday. You want to be humbled? That's humbling, mate. Right? And when she scores a goal, her own goal, you still buy them ice cream because she scored a goal, right? So, yeah, I love working, by the way. Some people don't get it, but for me personally, we'll do a camp in the summer at VC with ODP. Primarily, the ODP kids will be with a different group. And then we have like a Young Olympians, which is a little kids. I'll do that group because I love working with little tiny ones. There's so much fun. There's so much joy. They don't care about results. They want to win. They want to win in their little games. But it's just so much. It's so enjoyable. I used to do a camp at VC 6 weeks, 5 weeks of camp in the summer. And we'd have from 5 to 9-year-olds, something like that. Maybe some older ones. And we had a blast. We had a blast. It was fun. We made it fun. And, coaching camps, as you know, is so much different than coaching.
Yeah, it's not.
It's not. It's creating activities that you can do for 20 minutes to fill a time slot.
Yeah.
And then you just make it soccer orientated, don't you? But it's a challenge, but it's a fun challenge. I like, the ODP camps, when we started them, obviously in Ojai 20 years ago, that's when I stopped doing my camps at the college.
Oh, okay. Because
I had to go to Ojai and organize that and did that. But we brought it back last year for the first time with ODP. So the ODP program had the normal camp, which they had about 70 kids, which some good kids. We picked a few. And then we had about 30 or 40 in the little kids camp.
What would you say is like, what do you emphasize to your players over and over for them to be successful? Both like maybe these little kids and your college team.
The college team, it's decision making. Where's the most important space on a soccer field? This is Joey's thing, by the way. Where's the most important space on a soccer field? And you're doing exactly what
probably in front of your own box,
between your ears.
Oh,
decision making. That's the most important space.
He didn't say that in our C course. He should have.
But that's true, isn't it? When you think about it, because you've got to make all those decisions in a split second. Mm-hmm. And if you're playing, 7v7 and whatever it is, you've still got to make the same decisions. So for the players at the college, that's the biggest thing. That and technical proficiency, because when the game gets faster, the mistakes come in. Right. I mean, we trained for 2 weeks. We obviously can't train a lot. We're in class right now, so it's an hour and a half, twice a week. The big people, Cal Poly Pomona, they're on 8 hours a week. We're on 3, if that. And we play below the knees, 11v11. Ball can't go above your knees. The reason for that, number one, I did it when I played professionally, but it keeps the ball on the carpet, right? You want to keep the ball on the ground, and you should be able to drive a ball distance on the ground. Yeah. So we do that, and we're thinking, man, we're doing good. And then we play a game, and we're back to boop, ball in the air, boop, ball in the air. So, like you said, it's a matter of keep emphasizing that. Now, in the season, we did really well. But then you've got them 8 hours, 10 hours a week, haven't you? So it relates, even to senior players. So for the little kids, I think the first touch is critical. Mm-hmm. If you can get them with a decent first touch. And then I can't stand the parents that say, oh, that guy's a ball hog, he dribbles too much. It's like, oh, my God. We'd have no Messis if we had that, wouldn't we?
Right.
It's all right doing that in the right area of the field.
Right. There's a space for it. It's
just fine. It's just fine. And so if you've got someone that's super really well at that, you want to put them where they can hurt the other team. Yeah. But parents will be like, oh, he's a ball hog. He never passes the ball. And they don't understand.
It's funny, like when you watch professional players that, like when they were younger as kids,
yes,
and you watch their highlights, they're all ball hogs.
Yeah.
They're all like breaking all the rules.
That's it. And
it's like you have to feed it. You have to let it. You have to cultivate it.
Well, you think about this.
And do it right.
Think about the little ones. So you got your under 6s, under 8s. What do they do on the pitch? The beehive, right? They swarm together.
Right.
What do you do when you're playing pro? Have you seen a field?
They counter press.
They're in a small area. Yeah, so we teach them for 20 years to spread out. And then when we play at the next level, we're teaching them to get back together again, right? It's kind of unique, when you think about it.
Yeah. When you watch a program, they're like 30 yards apart.
Yes.
Defensive line to the other defensive line.
It's crazy, you know. And we teach the kids. That's why everybody gets frustrated. And you're going to get the kid that breaks out the beehive and dribbles, and normally they'll end up being a decent player, won't they? Because they got that little bit of a touch. So yeah, that we spend a lot of time at school talking about that. The biggest thing I think for all kids in this country is communication. They don't talk to each other. So when you're playing with a back four and they have two forwards going against you, it's a nightmare. At the college level, for me, it's a nightmare. They have no clue who marks who. What do we do? How do we do this? You got diagonals running behind you. So you have to go to three at the back, two marking. You have to, especially with a program like ours where you're only together 16 weeks. If you're playing together for 5 years, I know what you're going to do. You know what I'm going to do. I know you're fast. I know I'm slow. But when you're together at the college like we are, it's difficult, So, and everybody plays 4-3-3 these days, right?
Yeah, I do not, but yes.
No, but I mean, it's crazy.
Yeah.
It's crazy. Now, obviously I worked with Jill Ellis and the Federation for a long time in April, and they played 4-3-3 because they felt it was the most flexible style of play. And they were never locked into it, but they felt that was the most flexible. I like the 4-3-3 for that level, but when you get to young kids, especially forwards in a 4-3-3, they just run on train lines up and down. The 7 and the 11 just go up and back, go up and back. They never go into, can't go that way, too far to go. Whereas when you're playing with two up front, they can experiment, they can run anywhere, they can press anywhere. So personally...
Yeah, there's a lot more movement, natural movement with just two
It
forwards.
is, and I look back at the championships at VC, obviously we've won 18 of them, and 16 of them have been won with 4-4-2.
There you go.
So you go back and you start thinking to yourself, well, why did we play that way? And this was 2 years. And this last year we didn't have a true 9. So we played with two up front. We didn't get the goals we wanted, but the way that we pressed was brilliant. And the diagonal runs behind people were really well. And when we play in a 4-3-3, we don't get that. They don't understand that with a 7-11, your job's to get down the line, cross the ball. And then what should you have in the middle? A number 9 that can score. If you haven't got the number 9, that's pointless having the 7 and 11, right?
Yeah.
So it's unique, isn't it? But that's the good thing about the college. It's every day we got a full pitch. We can play 11v11, which we do. Every day we play at least 15 to 20 minutes. So we take it from, like you say, from the organizational stage, whether it's a rondo or whatever we're working on, and then we put it into a pattern, and then we put it into the game. When I worked with US Soccer and Pia Sundhagen was in charge with the women's national team, the kids were not happy because she's a European coach that believed in those principles. So they do a pattern, the same pattern, every time they come in. Mm-hmm. And the players, I'm talking Lily, I'm talking, some good players, right? They didn't like that. They wanted to be more challenged. And what Pia's idea was, like you say, let's get this right. So we see it in every game. And she just believed that you've got to keep doing it. It's similar to the British thing, like the European thing, where it's repetition on repetition on repetition. So that muscle memory, you remember exactly what you're going to do, But the players were not happy with that. They didn't like that. They wanted to do the sexy things, right?
Yeah.
Which is like all kids.
Yeah, I mean, the concept of discipline can be boring sometimes, but you have to find the fun in it.
Yeah, and I think personality as a coach makes a big difference when you're doing it. Can you have a bit of fun with what you're doing?
Yeah.
The one thing I pride myself on at the college is when a kid comes in, if they're a little distraught with it, we have kids come in, I don't know whether they want to play or not. And after year 1, they all want to come back because we make it fun. At high school, a lot of them do it because their friends are on the team, not because of the coach or the program, but their friends are there and they're very social. At the college, they don't need to do this.
Right.
This is like...
If you don't want to do it anymore, you shouldn't do it.
Now, we have a kid that's... One of my players just sent me a text, Hoffy, I've got a friend. And I recruited a friend to play a year ago. And she really misses it. Are you okay coming out? And it's like the door's always open, right? You always want to open the door. It's whether you want to step through the door, whether you want to challenge. So, we just lost a kid that went to Oxnard because she has a little anxiety problem. And at VC, I think it would be really challenging for her because our second group is as good as our first group. Mm. So you're always up against a battle. But if you're a real soccer player, you just want to get better. Yeah. And my job is when you go to a 4-year school, that you're able to play there, you know. And I think that's the problem with coaches that joystick. You know, I had a really good friend, passed away, God bless him, great guy, what an inspirational coach. But he was the X factor.
Yeah.
He was the X factor,
He was
right?
the difference maker, not the players.
Yeah. So when they go to college, a lot of those players struggled because they didn't have the X factor on the sidelines. So you become reliant on the coach. I think that's a sad thing, you know. So at the college, we try this. I have 4 great staff: goalkeeper coach, 3 assistant coach, one, my granddaughter. The other one played for me, was an All-American, and then Big Mike. So we have a nice mix, and they all coach. I always remember my assistant coach coming, and this is where I think, as a club coach, you need someone to sound stuff off, right? But they've got to want to do it. 2 years, he was there 2 years, Mike, and I said, "Hey, are you going to say something or what?" Because he was like, "I don't want to say it," you know. And it took him 2 years, and now he's a real coach.
Yeah,
you know, now he'll give feedback, but you also learn that feedback's critical. And when you're coaching females, you do need a female that's involved with you, because there's different dynamics that we don't know as guys, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's great to bounce stuff off those guys. I'm blessed to have a great crew. People might say, oh, he's got too many coaches, which some people do. But you got to cover it from all angles. You know, we got one coach that's inspirational. I mean, she's a scream. She's into it, man.
Yeah, yeah.
And then you got my granddaughter who take notes and say, "Granddad, this is how they're playing. It's a 4-foot, very tactical orientated." You know, we got our goalkeeper coach, obviously, and then Mike and myself. You know, and it's a good blend. So it's nice if a club coach. I always used to say at the parent meeting, you need to find the right assistant coach. It makes you or breaks you.
What if nobody has an assistant coach these days?
That's a tough one.
I haven't had an assistant coach forever.
You don't have a parent?
No.
Yeah, it's tough for you because you're not. I mean, it's just
a lot of the coaches at the club don't
see.
have.
That's the first thing.
I'd love one.
That's the first thing I would do.
Yeah.
Because if you're coaching 2 teams and you've got someone with team A that you can trust as an assistant coach, thinks the same as you, has the same standards as you do, then it makes your life easier if you're going to miss that game. But I think these days you get a substitute coach, right? Somebody steps in and covers you, cover coach, whatever you want to call them. But they don't know your kids.
Yeah.
They don't know how they play. And I'm sure you found this, that they'll play a game and the manager will talk to you and say, "Oh, he played everybody in the wrong spots."
Yeah, it's hard.
Because
it's hard to cover somebody.
It is. And that's why we have assistant coaches, right?
Yeah, well
some people. Some people, right?
Yeah, no. Overstaffing is not a problem for us.
There you go. Well, you know, there's nothing wrong with having one set of eyes and ears, but it's nice to have help. You know, I would encourage anybody that's got a team to try and get somebody. There's somebody on your team that really wants it. And then, you know, I'm going to a college, I'm going to a course. It's an investment in the future, especially if they're younger, because you know they're going to be with you a while.
Yeah.
Like if you're doing an under-12 team and you got somebody good, you know they're probably going to be with 15, 16 at least. So, you know, they're going to stay. So that's an investment in the future. So on the female side, there's so much money out there now for free coach education.
Really?
Yeah. You know, like we have Cal South has the ITG Initiative to Grow grant. It's $120,000.
So you don't have to pay that.
We match that. So yeah, you know, basically
the courses are expensive.
Yes.
This B course is like $3,000.
No, D course is $500 and C course is $1,900.
But the B.
Oh, the B.
I'm on my B, so
yeah, that's $3,000.
That's a lot of money.
It is a lot of money, and on that side of it,
and I don't have any.
Unfortunately, you're not a woman, because if you're a female, that course, Sarah paid about $1,200. My granddaughter paid $1,200 for a B license. She still had to fly 2 times to Kansas, but she paid a lot less. And actually, the states are now going to host those.
Yeah.
So before, everybody had to go to Kansas City or Arizona, whatever. Now, Cal South.
I'm waiting for the Ventura course.
They can, yeah. Well, I don't know whether they'll do that or not, but.
Or LA or something I can drive to.
Yeah. No, it's yeah.
You know, close by.
The next year, I know Cal South will have one. We didn't do one this year because we don't really have that many instructors that can teach it. The federation still have to approve your instructor, but yeah, we can. Cal South now can host B licenses.
So you're still teaching these courses?
So I'll still work for US Soccer as a coach, educator. Yeah. I like doing that. It's fun.
Do they call you up to coach a B?
No, it's up to me. If I want, with my resume, obviously you've got a pretty good CV, right?
Yeah.
I don't even do the C licenses. I've never had time. I've always felt with my Cal South position that Cal South's the priority, not U.S. soccer. So,
I don't understand. Maybe this is a good time to talk about it. I don't understand how this all works, the structure of it.
the structure is we've got 54 state associations, even though there's only 52 states. 50?
50?
Yeah, so like Cal South, Cal North, there's 2 states.
Okay.
Eastern Washington, Western Washington. So there's
So there's 50
there's
state,
54 associations.
54 state associations.
Correct.
And then each one of those associations has a licensing?
Yes, we're sanctioned
And
by
coaches.
We're sanctioned by U.S. Soccer to do U.S. Soccer's work,
Oh, okay.
as in
okay.
referee education.
Is it
coach
U.S.
education.
Soccer curriculum?
Yes.
It's not Cal South
No,
curriculum.
no. Everything's-
Okay.
When we work, I will U.S. Soccer stuff when I work, same with all the staff. So we're
Okay.
teaching U.S. Soccer's curriculum. We can't go off the boil. You can't go somewhere else. You've got to focus on that. And U.S. Soccer gets $25 every coach. That's it. So it's not like U.S. Soccer gets tons of money.
Yeah.
Right? The state associations use that to invest in educators. Paying people. Facilities are crazy. VC to host this D license was about $3,000. So that's where the money goes. Pay the staff. That type of thing. So the 54.
So where does the $3,000 for the B license go per coach?
That would go into the
facilities, the paying
facilities.
the coaches.
Coaches have to. The coaches. I don't know whether the coaches come into you. I think they are. Maybe not. I'm not sure. It's the A license, I think, that does that. The B license, I'm not sure whether the actual educator comes to you, but there's only 6 people on a B license.
6 coaches?
Yes, 6 students. Yeah, 6 students
6 students?
Yeah.
Per class?
per educator. The D license
per
is
educator.
The D
Okay.
license is 12.
So you can have 2 educators and have 12
That's it.
students.
So you can imagine. So that's double. So you can imagine how much work it is.
That's why everything's waitlisted. That's why
Yeah.
all the B class.
It's just we created a situation where the C license has become the 11v11 license now.
Yeah.
The D license doesn't have the 11-11 anymore. They took that out. So now you have to go to the C. But because we got more pro coaches, which is a good thing, there's more people want to go to the courses. So the federation are at that dilemma stage. We're supposed to join CONCACAF convention, which is basically UEFA. Right? So we're part of the CONCACAF convention, which means a couple of things. We have to follow the standards that they set forth.
Right.
So our coaching curriculum has to match what they feel it is, which it does now. So we're on the same page. That's good. But we also have a thing called standards, right? Which means every club has to post standards and adhere to standards. That's the big problem. Because a lot of the big clubs, like Fusion, can you imagine you have standards, therefore everybody that's coaching 14s up has to have a B or an A license. That would be the standard. And by the way, that license is renewable every 3 years.
Yeah. That's
coming. That's here.
Yeah, that's here. That's what they told us.
They voted, U.S. Club Soccer voted it down. Mike Colleen is on the board of U.S. Soccer. He was totally against it, which blows me away. The federation, if they implement that program, think about it. If you implement a program like that, someone has to monitor it, right? Someone has to go out there and check. So that's going to cost them money. And that's going to fight. So we've kind of like blown up the last 10 years in coach education, very much like Europe. In Europe, you've got a guy that's in Lancashire, which is Liverpool, Everton, Manchester United, Manchester City, Bolton, Burnley, Southport, Crewe. I can keep going. There's about 25 clubs. He's responsible for that area. And he goes around to all these places, checks credentials, makes sure everybody's doing what they need to do, right? That's going to have to come here. But this country's so big. It's such a massive thing. It's like continued education units.
Right.
So CEUs for C license, B license, and A license. That's coming. So you have to go and you have to get 12 units in 3 years.
That's what they told us at the end of the C. You have to go get this sort of renewal thing or take the B.
12 units.
Yeah.
And you get 3 of those units are for doing risk management, safe sport. So you get 3 for that. Done.
Okay, so only really 9
So now
units.
you're at 9 units.
Okay.
Then you got to find those 9. Now that was supposed to come in to play January this year. It's still not in right now.
Okay, so I have some time.
So FIFA will eventually slap US Soccer on the wrist and say, you got to get in, all in.
So Europe already has this
Yeah,
model.
yeah.
That's what they've been
The rest
doing
of the
for a
world
long
does.
time.
The rest of the world does. We just don't have it. We've never been set up for it. Now we're trying to get set up for it. So it's a big challenge for U.S. soccer. It's a tough one.
Does Cal South need more coaches and need more administrators?
Do they need more coaches? I think the thing with Cal South is, remember, it's important to remember that we're an association. We're not like AYSO is a national organization. U.S. Club is a national organization. Cal South is an association. So it's like a member organization. Do you see what I'm saying? So if you join Coast Soccer League with your team, you're part of Cal South. If you join U.S. Club, you're part of the national organization called U.S. Club. So that's the difference in it. I think U.S. Club is, if you're in SoCal, then whoever's the leaders run SoCal, right?
Yeah.
If you're with Cal South, you have a board of directors that runs Cal South. So you have checks and balances, right? Because no one's making a paycheck. They're all volunteers.
Oh, okay.
So, the biggest thing for Cal South is the safety and the experience of the kids. Then we've got to think about the coaches. Can we make them safe?
So then who runs ODP? Is it Cal South that runs ODP?
Yeah, and so
that's not U.S. Soccer?
U.S. Soccer gives the U.S. Olympic Committee sanctions U.S. Soccer to run the Olympic Development Program because it's an Olympic sport. So basically...
And U.S. Soccer sanctions the associations.
Then we have to fill a form out. We fill a thing out every year, and we're then sanctioned. And then U.S. Club have what they call ID2, which is also an ODP program. It's ID2. They didn't want to use the same acronym as we have.
Is it like a second tier?
No, it's the same thing. Exactly the same. Exactly the same. They do international trips. They pick a team, a national team, and all that stuff. The same as USYS.
So ID2 and ODP pretty much have two teams.
Yeah, they're pretty much the same ODP. We have some kids that play on the ID2 team and play on the ODP team.
Huh.
So the sanctioning for ODP goes to USYS, United States Youth Soccer, that's out in Texas, right? We don't do that. We never have. We've always been sanctioned individually. We can go under their umbrella if we want to, but I've always felt that, why do I want to ask somebody else when it's a federation program? So it gets very confusing because we have 7 different groups, right? 7 different leagues, right?
Why isn't U.S. Soccer and U.S. Olympic Soccer? Why aren't they one organization?
Well, the United States Olympic Committee is the organizing body for any Olympic sport in this country. They've given that's their gig, right?
Oh, I see.
So, and then U.S. Soccer, so if you go to U.S. Hockey, USA Hockey, they're governed by the Olympic Committee as well because it's an Olympic sport. But all they do is they say, okay, that's your job. You're gonna run the youth hockey programs. So they have the same thing. Swimming's the same. They have ODP in swimming. One of our coaches at the college worked for them.
Yeah, the whole structure just seems like it could be...
structure, yeah, it's crazy. It's crazy. You got 7 to 8 leagues in California. GA, right?
Yeah.
You got ECNL,
So, how do we remedy that? How do we get it streamlined?
Yeah, there's only one way to remedy it, and U.S. Soccer will never do it, is blow it up and have everybody registered with U.S. Soccer, just like they do in Europe.
All players, all coaches.
All players, all coaches register with U.S.
All
Soccer.
teams.
Yeah.
Clubs.
Well, the players register with U.S. Soccer. The teams could choose where the hell they want to play. Whether they want to play in the ECNL or whatever. They would just... but the registration piece, that's what funds it. So we're basically U.S. Club in Southern California, which is SoCal Soccer, right? SoCal Soccer League, and Cal South are doing the same thing. We're all doing coach education. They don't do referee education. We do it because the state has to do it. But they're fighting to take that. They want to take that. There's money in it, so there's a benefit to be gotten, as it were. So it's quite interesting. It's very confusing to parents because they don't know where the hell to play.
It's confusing to me, and
I look at the Fusions website. They're with Cal South, they're with US Club, they're with MLS Next, and they're with MPL. That's it. And I think as a business, because Rampier as a business, you have to be in everything. Yeah. He's always told me that. I mean, if I asked him about where would he prefer to be, probably with Cal South because it's organized. There's boundaries you can't cross. But for his business, he needs to be in everything.
Yeah.
And what's happened in this area is more and more teams are following the Kool-Aid, right? Which is U.S. Club Soccer's SoCal League. SoCal League's better. SoCal League's better. I keep hearing that.
Oh, so SoCal League is with U.S. Soccer.
They're with U.S.
And
Club.
SoCal and Cal, the other one, Coast.
That's
Coast
with Cal
Soccer
South.
is with Cal South.
Yeah, so Coast Soccer is Cal South, and SoCal Soccer is U.S. Club, right? And they're a national affiliate.
You know, Pete, I have been hearing good things about the SoCal League.
Yeah, well, people say good things until they get in it,
Yeah.
right? And then they see the results are not the same. Look, we used to have a league here called El Camino Real Soccer League, right? That was El Camino, so you know the bell. You've seen it on the freeway, I'm sure. So we're El Camino all the way down to Santa Maria, all the way up. There was a league, really good league, top draw. What happened 20 years ago, 15 years ago, Coast Soccer League started to filter those teams out. The best teams, there's no competition, I want to go there. So eventually the league went away and everybody joined Coast Soccer League. And now we got another cycle of that, right? Everybody's joining the SoCal League and leaving Coast Soccer League. But when they get there, they find that it's probably not as... It's more of a, you're doing this. You don't want to play in State Cup? No problem. Just pay the money and get the hell out. So it's more of a dictatorship, and it's run by club directors. Those club directors that are on the board are all coaching, are in charge of big clubs. So who do you think is going to... And their clubs, by the way, their big teams don't play in there. They don't play in Coast. They don't play in that league. Don't play in SoCal.
Yeah.
They play in ECNL, they play in MLS Next.
Yeah.
But they're running the league. So you got to think to yourself, why are they doing that? And you just put one and one together, normally equals the sum, doesn't it? So, but you know what? At the end of the day, everybody's an individual business. That's what soccer's made up with. Whether it's the Eagles, whatever, they're an individual business, and they have a right to choose what's the best pathway for them. And I'm a great believer in that. Before we had USYS and Cal South and Coast, and there was no choice. And Coast were a dictatorship, you know, and that's why they broke away and formed the SoCal Soccer League, you know. So you look at that and you think about it, but, you know.
So are you involved in anything the Coast Soccer League does with your work as a Cal South coach?
We are directly, because if you think about Cal South, remember, we're an association. We don't run leagues. We run the State Cup. We don't run leagues. So Coast Soccer League run the only league in Southern California, and they're affiliated with Cal South. So I talk to Bernie every week, Chris every week, the guys from Coast. I'll still help them now that I've retired. I'll still help those guys. They
Where are they based?
They're based in on Chapman Avenue in Orange, and they are top. They got everything. They got the app. They're generations ahead of other leagues. They were
the app is good. I will say the Coast Soccer League app is good.
Right. That's what they're at, you know. Now, they're hurting, obviously, because teams are leaving them. But, you know, last year, say 50 teams left. They still had just under 2,000 teams. But because the other league, you've got to have certain standards to get in. Maybe you've got to have 3 teams. I don't know. But Coast, if you've got one team now, Cal South's made it where you can join Coast Soccer League. So before you had to have, to be a club, you had to have 3 teams or 5 teams. We've changed that now because, you know, you've got the guy down the street, you know, maybe he's not happy and he wants to be in a league. So why not let him be in Coast? So
yeah,
there's more opportunities to get involved.
Yeah.
But the big clubs.
My gripe with Coast is sometimes they don't get the balance of the teams right.
Oh, well, that's tough, you know that.
Like, we were in a bronze division this year, and the team that won bronze, you know, crushed everybody. And then we were in a tournament a few weeks after the season was over, and that bronze team was also in the tournament. And they played a gold team, and they beat that gold team.
Right.
And it's like, what are you doing in bronze?
Yeah.
It happens every season.
It's tough. You can imagine. That team was probably formed 2 years ago. And Coast situation is if you're a new team, you start at the bottom.
They got to change that rule.
Well, I think they do look at it, but what do you go on? If you're a brand new team, your team brand new, and you've got the Oxnard All-Stars playing, right?
Yeah.
How do they know how good you are?
Yeah, they don't.
It's very, very difficult, yeah. So, and then you go in the league, now they can protest, that team can protest to play up next year. And maybe skip a division, which I would hope they do. Yeah. But it's tough. Anytime you do that, we used to have 4,000 teams in our State Cup. 4,000. And everyone had to be seeded. So that was a tough job. And then it'd always come back down to me to decide what happens, right? So we went on win percentage for that big event. So if your win percentage was below 20% on the season, you were able to play down. So if you were in the top league and you only won 2 games, we will allow you to play down in President's Cup. Anything over that, you have to play up. But then you've got somebody they've won 5 games and the keeper broke their leg down, the goalkeeper now, and 2 players left. So they're the ones that would come and protest and say, can we? And we'd have to look at it. We'd look at results, look at the roster, and then we might change. You know what I mean? So quite interesting though. Another challenge.
Yeah. No. Challenge is a good word to describe what it's been like.
Yeah. But 28 years of challenges, mate. 28 years of challenges. Not really. It's, I don't think there's.
What's been the best part? What's been some of the highlights over those 28 years?
Oh, obviously with the Olympic Development Program, winning national. We swept the regional championships 3 times. 10 out of 10. 3 times.
So explain how that works. You select players from
anybody. Doesn't have to be Cal South.
Yeah. Okay.
Remember, you're approved by the United States Olympic Committee, and you can't discriminate against any player. So if a kid was playing high school and we saw him, we could pick him. That's the way it is. So that's the inclusion. So we would pick a group of players to start with. So for instance, this year, 2013s, the little kids, we had 130 come to VC on the board, and we ended up shrinking that down to 48. And then they had training last weekend, and now they're down to 36 to go to a camp. So they'll come we have a camp in Hoffy, Thatcher School.
Yeah, I saw that
and
last year because
that will be that's a 4-day camp, so it's 3 nights, 4 days. That costs the parents $295, and we also have another camp which is open to the public, which costs $675. So we subsidize it, $300. The kids come in for those days, we train them, then we release them. They go back to their clubs. Because it's just like the England national team or the US national team. They come in, they train, they go back to their clubs. And then in the winter, we pick them again, the kids that went to camp. And then we also don't want to forget about the late bloomers, so we bring other kids in. So in the winter, they'll probably bring in 50, 60 kids for that 2013 age. And then they'll pick a team or 2 teams, depending on the younger ones, to go to Arizona in January to compete for a regional championship. So that's the 13 Western states. And they've actually opened it up now, so they'll probably have a few more. Illinois was there last year, Maryland was in. So they'll bring other states in because the weather's beautiful, right? Well, you're going to go in Pennsylvania in the winter, mate. It's fucking snowing. So they come in.
I know.
So that's how it works. And then before, if you won the 2 oldest age groups at ODP, which last year was like the 07s and the 08s, you would then get chosen to go to the national ODP championships in Dallas. Because USY has stopped that, because they paid for it. It was free for the kids. They stopped that when they lost their Adidas deal. So now they don't have that championship, but they used to have it. So we won 38 of those.
So they don't have national championships anymore?
Not for the ODP program.
Really?
But before it finished, we won 38 championships.
Wow.
We've won 129 regional championships.
This is why I'm saying, where are all the SoCal players on the U.S. national team?
Yeah, I mean, I think we've got less now. But then, we probably don't hear about them as much. They're playing with LAFC or the Galaxy. And if you look around, there's not many kids outside of those teams that are making the national teams now. If you're not if you're not with a pro club, training every day, it's a little bit harder. Yeah. They have like the national ID stuff, right? So I saw one of the Fusion kids got invited in. Well, that's like 50 kids. That's not the team.
Yeah,
it's not the 18, right? So they get an opportunity still. But U.S. soccer, think about the country. I always remember April Heinrich used to say, we need to think like a small country and not like a big country. Because if you look around the world at the small countries, look at Wales. It's not freaking Euros, man. They go one step away from the Euros. You know how many people are in Wales? There's more sheep than there are people, right? Yeah. So April's big thing was think small, don't think big. And this country is massive. We could have 4 national teams. We used to have because this is called the West, right? So in US West, we had Region 1, Region 2, Region 3, Region 4. We were Region 4, and Mexico was Region 5. Because a lot of the kids came over the border to play in Cal South that we picked for our teams, right? So, the ODP program has been one of the biggest pleasures. I've seen Eric Ronaldo playing ODP. I've seen Colby Jones. I can go back at Lannon Donovan, Carlos Bocanegra, you name them. Alex Morgan, Amy Rodriguez. I can keep going. So many terrific players. That's been the most fun. And then the coach education. You meet so many good people. So many people do it for the right reasons. So they're the things that keep you going, you know. I just now, obviously, my retirement was announced last weekend. I've got over 1,500 people wishing me a good retirement, and a lot of them are players who are not playing soccer anymore. They're in the workforce, but they remember the great times that we had together, you know. And, you know, a lot of coaches are thankful that they got an opportunity, you know, and I think you go back and you look at life. And when I came to America in 1983, in 1985, a guy called Norman Jackson was doing my technical job at Cal South, and he gave me an opportunity. Didn't have to. Just liked me and gave me an opportunity. So I've always felt you should give people an opportunity. And my wife would get mad, you know, because I'd say you give someone enough rope, they hang themselves, right? That's the reality. And if you're in it for the right reason, that'll never happen. But if you're in it for the wrong reason, eventually you'll hang yourself. So I've always felt, give people a chance. Don't prejudge them. It's the same at the college. You know, a coach will call me and say, oh man, you're getting this kid coming to your school this year. She was a nightmare. Her mum's a nightmare. The dad's a nightmare. The cancer. And they come to VC and they're the sweetest kids you've ever seen in your life. Because they form an opinion based on one thing or whatever. So I always tell kids that come to VC, you know, I don't care where you played, who you played. Don't care if you played high school. When you come here and you walk through the door, you're a VC player, you have an opportunity. If you take it, great. So opportunity is the big thing. It happened to me when I came here. Unfortunately, I lost my real job, and that forced me into coaching soccer. Wasn't a bad hindsight, right? I had two choices when the company I worked for closed. I had two choices. Because I was coaching at Cal Lutheran University, and I was still doing that when it closed. But I was getting like $2,000 a year. Can't feed a family on that for $2,000 a year, right? So it was a matter of what do I do now? And it just fell at a good time. I think it was Christmas time of January or something like that. And I was able to find a coaching job that actually paid me. In them days, no one was paid. Very few people. You know, and everybody was like, oh man, he's a mercenary, he's being paid. But the ironic thing is, my daughter was a terrific flute player, and we had someone give her free lessons for years. And then she came to me and said, Dad, I want to go to this guy, he's the best, but it's $50 for half an hour. And of course, I was like, what do you mean $50 for half? This guy's free, right? But I get it, you know, that's the perception. If you charge, you're better than someone's free. So I think that's the key. Is the parents want to go where they feel they're going to get the best bang for their buck because they're invested in their child. So, but it's been a good ride. I've had a good time, you know.
How did you initially get involved with Cal South?
So when I came here in 1983, first of all, we thought I had a job and everything was taken care of. And
is that why you came here? You had a job out here? From England?
My mother and father-in-law, right, had a business in Liverpool. They were big friends with the Beatles.
Oh, yeah?
So they sold records. They had a record bar. So they sold records, and when my father-in-law had scoliosis, which is curvature of the spine. So they said to him, you know, you live longer if you go to a healthier life if you go somewhere warm. So they moved here in 1978.
Okay.
And then my wife's twin sisters moved over. Then we had the opportunity. They would come in every year, but I loved it, man. I was off to Spain. I was doing all the things. My kids would be here with my wife for 3 weeks. So like party time, right? Pub, play golf as much as I wanted, right? And then, you know, I've had like six or seven knee surgeries. So I was just a weak moment, and they said, why don't you come over? So we did all the paperwork. We came over in 83. She came in the end of 82. I came in early 83. And then we landed, of course, so we're here, and then there's no job. So I'm like, oh, shoot, what am I going to do? Now, I was a butcher in England. That's what I did. I was a butcher and a DJ. Can you get any further apart than that? So when I came over here, I had to look for a job, and I met Sean Roach. You know Sean, right? So I met Sean the very first day I was in America, day one. I was in McDonald's trying to order, and they couldn't understand me.
Huh.
Because I had a very strong Scouse accent when I came. So Sean had to step in and say, no, he wants this, right? That's when I met Sean Roach. And he was coaching at Boyne High School. So he said, hey, if you ever want to get involved in football, come over and see me at the school. You know, I'd love to talk to you. So we become big friends, and I did coach at Boyne High School for like 7 years as an assistant coach. So I found a job as a butcher locally in town, and I was there for quite a while. Then that company had a problem financially, closed. I went somewhere in Camarillo, but all the time I was doing this, I was still coaching my son's team. So I always tried to work my schedule out. If I got to work at 4 a.m. till 12, whatever I did, and the people I worked for were understanding. They were like, "No, I know you got kids, no problem. As long as the work's done."
That's helpful.
Yeah. So I actually worked in Goleta for about 5 years. Drove from Goleta to Cal Lutheran every day.
Oh.
Coached at Cal Lutheran, then drove to Los Virgenes and worked with what used to be called the Los Virgenes Blazers or Soccer Cal United. And then I'd come home at 10 o'clock at night and get the next day, 5 o'clock in the morning, do it again and again. And at the weekends, I'd go in super early, like at 3 in the morning and work till like 9:30 and then leave. And I'd stack everything up so there was never a problem. And they were great. And then they were kind of hippies, the guys were like peace, love and all that stuff. And one day he came and it was just after Thanksgiving, it was getting near Christmas, or I think it was after Christmas. And he said, we're closing. I'm like, what?
The butcher shop.
Yeah, it was a health food store.
Oh, okay.
So he said, it's like Lassen's. We're closing. I'm like, what do you mean closing? Yeah, I'm going to live in Montana. I'm closing.
Huh.
They were different, like I said. They were different people. So they left, and then I was left hanging. So I'd already booked to go to England to see the family for 3 weeks. So I wasn't going to change that. And then my wife was at Procter & Gamble, so she had a decent job. So it was like, what am I going to do when I come back? And then, I was at Cal Lu already. So I was doing Cal Lutheran. And then the Ventura College job came up, which is part-time. But the lady had gone to a coaching school that I taught and liked what I did. So they recruited me to go there. So I went to Cal Lu. In the meantime, I was doing coach education with Cal South. I was a coach educator. I'd got my D license. And in them days, if you had a D license, you could teach an F and an E. So you had to have 2 licenses higher. So I'd got the D license. I'd gone through coach education. So that was kind of cool. And my first instructor was a guy called Peter Moore. Have you heard of Sky FC in Santa Barbara?
Yeah, they just started it, right?
Yeah, so Peter Moore is the guy that's in charge of that. He was also the Liverpool CEO. He was the first coach educator I worked with.
Okay.
At that point, he was with Reebok, believe it or not. So yeah, I worked with Peter and enjoyed every minute of it. So I got involved in education then in '85, and then
Has he asked you to come help his?
No. I've not really talked to Pete. I'm not sure where they're at with that. I know they've put it off a year, haven't they? So I don't know whether it's financial or whatever.
It's a USL team,
yeah, it's supposed to be USL Pro.
Yeah.
So it's a unique area, Santa Barbara, isn't it? Where are people going to come to watch? You're going to have to get, you know what I mean? I mean, Ventura's a little bit better because we got Oxnard, we got a little bit more people.
Santa Barbara's like on an island.
Yeah, it's kind of a tough one. It's a great area.
It's a great area.
I love it.
But you have to travel wherever
I
you
remember
go.
watching Santa Barbara when they were playing in the old semi-pro league. Yeah, Rudy Ibarra was playing. How's that? Rudy was on the field playing, mate. Yeah. So was Lalo Alvarado with the Eagles. They were playing for FC Santa Barbara. Larry Lloyd played for the California Sunshine, and they played. Larry Lloyd just died 2 days ago, ex-Liverpool captain. Played for Nottingham Forest in the Champions League. He played up there. Same with Ron Yates. I mean, there were some ex-pros that played up there.
Yeah.
So I've been blessed because the people that I know over here, that I've met over here, I've played in England, like Clive Best. Clive Best played for West Ham. First African player to play for, he's from Barbados. He's from Bermuda. Played for West Ham. Great man. Spent lots of time with him. Love it. It was great. My everybody's gonna have a mentor. You got someone that you really look up to. So Norman Jackson, when I came to the United States, Norm's from Liverpool. He's a mad Liverpool fan. Obviously, a lot in common, right? And he was just such a great guy. Soccer was in its infancy. He was doing NASL, right, which is the old pro league. Yeah, the old pro league with Chick Hearn. Chick Hearn, the Lakers commentator.
Oh, yeah?
The jelly's jiggling, the refrigerator door's closed. That Chick Hearn, he was doing soccer in the old days. And Norm was the colour guy. And then Gil Stratton was another guy. So Norm was doing these things. He worked for René Michels, the Dutch guy.
Yeah.
When Cruyff was playing for the LA Aztecs.
Yeah, I mean, when I had Rudy on, he told me all this story about... Yeah.
So one of Norm's famous stories is a lovely story. Cruyff is in the penalty area. And Cruyff says to Norm, I'll bet you $20 I can go behind the goal and hit the crossbar and score. From behind the goal. So chipping it over, spinning, hitting the bar and going in. So Norm's like, that's an easy bet, I'll take it. So Cruyff does it once, and Norm says, well, it's double or quits. Cruyff does it twice. Cruyff does it 3 times. Now Norm's paycheck, there's nothing left of it, right? So that was the stuff. And Michaels used to make them run without water as a punishment in the old days. Think about that. In the Rose Bowl, in the heat. You're not getting no water, you're not working hard enough. So a lot of people in that area, Todd Saldana, Jimmy Millender, I know so many people in that area. Bobby Sybil played in Southport when I was with Southport. He was over here, so I know a lot of people. I played in the England-Scotland game in Orange County. That's one of the fun ones, right?
Yeah.
New Year's Day, England-Scotland, and there was some players in that, some pros in that. Yeah. So most of them passed away now, but some great guys. So soccer's been good to me, good to the family. Obviously Joe's, doing his thing as a technical director. My granddaughter's got a B license.
So you never really intended to be a coach?
Oh no, but nobody does, do they? I did
I
it
don't
because
know. I love it.
When,
I want to keep doing it.
The funny thing is, when I talk to these coaches in the coaching school, particularly probably maybe the 11v11s more so, but even the D license we just did, and I asked them at the beginning, tell me a bit about yourself. And 75 to 80% will say, well, my son or my daughter needed a coach, so I coached the team. Same with me. I got to pick my son up, and there's a guy called Harold Perkins was his coach. And my wife didn't leave the house, man. No one understood it. She had a Scouse accent, right? So Kathy had signed them up for soccer. I go and they're playing basketball. So I'm working.
That's what Joey told me.
I'm working 4 times. So in the end, I'm like, dude, this guy's having me on. We're playing basketball. What are they going to do when they play soccer? So first of all, my wife obviously didn't know. So I'm like, what have you done? You've signed him up for basketball. She said, no. It said AYSO on the phone. Look, American Youth Soccer. We didn't know what it was. So we go, and that's about 4 practices. And I go to this guy and say, hey, is this basketball or is it soccer? And he's like, oh, man, you speak English. Yeah, pretty good. I said, no, you don't understand. You're my assistant coach. Right, how do you play soccer? That's it. He was just a good dad. And you know what? The guy was the nicest guy to work with. And then Joe had played for him for a year. And he said, hey, have him play baseball. He'll love it with all the boys. So he got like 5 of the kids on the team to play in his baseball team. The guy was a maniac. He was a total loony in the baseball field.
Really?
It was like,
in
what?
a good way or a bad way?
No, in a bad way.
Yeah.
No, in a bad way. It was like, Oh, no, it was like Phillies. The Phillies, that was his team, mate. It was like, it went from being this Jekyll and Hyde thing just because he knew baseball, right? Soccer, he didn't know anything about it. So, but I think that's most people that get involved in soccer. Now I think this generation's changed a little bit, like yourself. They love the game because more people watch the game. But I have people call me saying, I want to be a soccer coach. How can I get a job? And that's the hard thing for people because there's no really job placement thing.
Right.
And then you go back to, is it a job? Are you paying Social Security? Are you paying retirement? Have you got medical benefits? All those things are so important. When you're young, you're all right. When you're young, it's not. For me, it was a big problem because I had 3 kids, right? So I needed to make sure we always had medical benefits. And I was blessed that my wife was at Procter & Gamble, horrible job, making toilet paper, but got paid really well with great benefits. That allowed me to really do what I wanted to do, So
your wife's the hero in the story.
Well, and then when I did ODP, I knew, because I'd done ODP for free. I mean, from 1986 to 92, something like that, I did it for free, ODP. 21 days a year, bye, that's it, gone. Right? And then when I took the ODP program over, I said to the Cal South board, the only way I'll do this is if my wife runs the program, the administrative side. Pay her part-time, but she runs it. Otherwise, I'd never see her. So Kathy ran the ODP program for 22 years, or 20 years. She hadn't been the last 3, so maybe 25 years. And the kids know her as Mumsy. And, that's, she enjoyed every minute like me. And it was good. Obviously, we had a lot of arguments, right? Over, he can't play, he's not paid, and I got to find a way for him to pay, But she kept me in check. So behind every guy, when you get older, mate, there's always somebody that's got to support you. I miss so many. You'll learn this. You miss so many birthdays and weddings. I mean, there's a wedding coming up on the 13th. I've scheduled 2 games at VC, so I won't be going to that wedding, right? So my wife's like, oh, great, I guess I'm going solo again for the whatever time, right? But, that's the hard thing. I think people don't realize being a coach, you do give up a lot. Your family gives up a lot, not you because you love what you're doing, but as a coach, you can't preach to the choir saying you can't miss, you got to do this for the team, and then you can't say, well, I'm off, see you later. So it's tough. And I've had so many great people help over the years. I had a guy, Roy Carlson, he's an attorney, and he was on my staff scouting. And there's a board position. So I'm like, dude, you need to be on the board. So I got him on the board like 15, 16 years ago. He's just got off the board now, and it's like, those people are the unsung heroes. It's like your AD at school. They do all the work. They deal with all the work, and all you do is coach and deal with students. But that's the fun part. So I think you've got to have those people. Gary Thompson's Joey's man. Joey's team manager. This guy worked for the Olympics in '84. He worked for the World Cup. He drove whatever national team around. Gary was part of Joe's crew in the ODP. That was his team manager. He didn't want anybody else. And Gary was a comedian. A referee. So we even had people from the dark side in. So he was a referee, and that guy just never was really about the money, but just about love doing it. Dave Lamb, another guy that brought me into ODP. I complained. I'll never forget the day I complained. I complained to Gary Thompson, Joey's boy. There was a game going on, and Eric Winalda was playing, and Dave Winalda, his dad, was assessing people. So I went to Gary and said, Gary, I'm not complaining. I was not evaluating my kid or anything. I was just there to help. And I said, but it doesn't look good, right? If that's going on. So he said, well, what are you gonna do about it? Going to complain? You're going to get work? Are you going to work? So that's when I got involved in ODP because I wanted to help, and I saw the quality in the likes of Eric and Colby and those guys. We had this area at the time. Yeah, we had 5 or 6 kids on the Olympic team. I mean, I remember Cameron Rast playing at Simi Valley High School, and he got called to go to the Olympics. Went to the Olympics, and his high school, because it was at the end of the high school season. I think it was the Olympics, or it was a qualifier, and he played high school all year. Then he went and missed the last high school game to go and play for the Olympic team, and the high school forfeited.
The senior team?
The high school forfeited 26 games because he'd gone and played on an outside team.
Really? Like that was their punishment from the league?
High school, you couldn't play on an outside team, even the Olympic team.
Wow. So
what happened then? They come back and there's a big lawsuit, and that's why the rule 6031 is in the book now, that you can play in the Olympic development. That's the Cam Rass rule. People don't know that. That was Cameron. It was crazy.
So 6031, Cameron, what's his last name?
Cameron Rast, he's the head coach at Santa Clara University. But Cameron, he went and played for our national team in a qualifying event, and the high school made him forfeit 23 games. They were the best team in the state. So they filed a lawsuit, and now...
They won it?
No, they still lost the 23 games because, the high schools are the high schools. That's the rules now. We'll change the rules, So it was a really, really sad thing, but from that, we have... Now, the high school has a rule which allows you to play in the ODP program. You can't play in a club team. You can't play on any other team. You can play on the national team, obviously. We just got to give them 30 days' notice with a letter. And it's not an excused absence, but now they can go and do that. But that was because of Cameron and his dad, actually. So, the ODP had the challenges over the years, because remember years ago you couldn't coach outside competition. So if you're the coach at Ventura High School and a kid from Ventura made the ODP team, you couldn't coach that kid or that team because you had a kid on the team.
Oh, I see.
So that all changed over the years. So
Yeah.
we've gotten better and better. And I get it, when you're in high school, you want to focus on high school. That's the one wish. I think if I had a wish, it would be like that the high school coaches work with their club coaches. So your kids don't come to practice having run 3 miles.
Right.
Think about it. If you're training 3 nights a week, and then high school's going 5 days a week, where's the
recovery?
There's no recovery. There's no periodization.
Right.
One of the biggest things. Periodization is super important. I think when I went back, I watched A.D. Boothroyd. He was with Northampton, I think, at the time, and just watching how they ran their periodization sessions, how intense it was for 4 minutes. and then how they chilled out for another 3 minutes. Then it was like back on again. You know?
Yeah, yeah.
I mean,
that's how I do my passing drills now.
Yeah,
I tell them we're wasting time if we're not doing it as fast as possible, but I will give you rest.
Yeah.
So we can.
Periodizations, though, we're the worst in this country, soccer. If you look at track and field, they got it down, mate. Cross country, they got it down.
That's where I learned about it. Was in track.
Periodization is massive. You know.
Yeah.
If you want quality, if you just want quantity, then you can play it. We talk in the coaching schools about intensity. Intensity is about the size of the field, the duration of the activity. The bigger the field, the less intense, the more aerobic running. The smaller the field, the more the intensity, right? The more the decision making. So we notice it at the school. We do 3 sets of 4 minutes each. By the third set, the quality is not as good because they can't sustain it. Right. And the idea is you want the best out of it. But yeah, that's something that I think really hurts because you're playing 2 games on a weekend, right? And then you're going on Monday night and doing practice. That doesn't make sense to me. And the problem you have is if you don't do practice, the parents are like, well, what are we paying you for? And I used to take Mondays when I played 2 games on a weekend and ask the kids what they wanted to do. On a Monday night, I'd say, right, what practice do you want? They want to play cuppies, World Cup.
Yeah.
They want to do stuff and that's hard. It's not easy, but they wanted to do it.
But it's fun. And it changes.
Fun. And there's no coaching.
Totally different.
But then, when I was at Soccer Cal United, they wouldn't be too happy. They'd be like, well, why are you not doing a structured practice?
Yeah.
Because it's enjoyment, people go out and do fitness on a Monday after playing 2 games on a weekend. What are they thinking?
Yeah.
But that's just the hand you're dealt, and you've got to make the most of it. Because like I said to you, like at the college, we know Monday, Thursday are our training days in the season. Wednesday's recovery, regeneration, and we have an optional training session at night. But really much you play Tuesday night, that's a recovery day, right? So that's what we try and do. But it's hard when you're doing club soccer because your practice is Monday and Wednesday. So you play Saturday, Sunday, you got to do something on Monday, right?
Yeah, if we have a tournament, we'll just take Monday off. But
That's
usually
good.
If we have just 1 game, we usually just have 1 game a weekend.
Yeah.
So you don't use film. You've been very successful as a coach, but you don't use film as regularly as some coaches might.
Part of it is the timing, because obviously the people that work with me have got jobs as well, and I had a job as well, so I couldn't do that. But I do think that kids tend to look at themselves and kind of giggle, right? So even at the Division 1 level, I think it can be good, but it can be bad. Like I said to you, I know that we talked about this with A.D. Boothroyd, having, obviously coached Watford in the Premier League, and the things that went on at home couldn't be assessed by any physical guy, right? It's just about AD listening and the players listening. Andy's had a baby and he's not slept for a week. So how do you solve that problem? Well, you put him in a hotel for 4 days, 3 days, let him chill out, right? That's the stuff that's managing, right? I think that's the great thing about Alex Ferguson. Player management's important. And when you're doing video and the kids are seeing it, it's so easy to be critical. And like you say, it's not personal, but it is critical. And when you've grown up playing soccer and your coach has never been critical of you, it can be very detrimental. So it's really important to use it when you feel it's necessary. So we do watch the games, and especially if we're playing a game like we watched Moore Park back because we didn't do too well. They played very direct. They took a lot of throw-ins, big throw-ins. So you work on that, and the kids are not used to that either. When we going in, right? We have a pre-game training. What's the pre-game training? They never had that. You have practice in high school every day, right? 5 days a week, practice. Well, what are you practicing for? For the sake of practicing or for the next game? So I'm a great believer that, my Sunday is about we're playing on Tuesday. Let's say we're playing somebody that plays direct. So Monday's session has to replicate how that team plays, at least in our 11-a-side piece, which is about 30 minutes. Yeah. And we'll make the team do that. I always remember, on that note, working with Mark Gregorian. He's at Florida State. I think he's at Florida State now. He was our under-20 national team coach. And we used to supply all the games for U.S. Soccer's women's national team program, whether it's the first team, the 23s, the 21s, whatever. They'd call me and say, we want a game against boys. They always played boys, never girls. And Mark was so unique in that respect. He would call me and say, Steve, we're playing against a team that has a 6-foot center forward, 5'9", big girl. can you get me a big guy? You got a team with a big guy to come in. And then can you play this way? And it would be low block, playing the ball big, whatever. He was very strategic. So you knew the guy was a good coach, right? He's won the national championship a couple of times in college. Right? So, that kind of thing was interesting. Other people didn't ask for that. And then some people, I won't mention names, that were with the national team, we just show up and say, just play how you want to play. And I'd be like, wouldn't you want us to play like Costa Rica or Mexico? Or, you know what I mean? So I think the pre-game sessions are really, really important collegiately because you don't have a lot of time. So we have 1 day prep, play a game, recovery, and then the recovery at night is optional. Mm-hmm. And then we pre-game on a Thursday, we play on a Friday. So people say, well, when do you get fit? Well, that's in June, July, when we go 4 nights a week, 4 hours, 3 hours a night. Go in the gym, the fitness center, and train. Yeah. So, once you get to the season, it's all about...
There's no time for it.
Post-game and prep for the next game, isn't it? Yeah. And then the weekends, we're a community college, and I really believe these kids have given their life to the game. They have every weekend. If you're playing in a club program, you're potentially playing it 3 times a week, training 3 times a week. Some of these are playing 1 or maybe 2 games in a weekend. That's 5, and you have no life. And then you got high school on top of that, right? So when they come to VC, I tell them, you're going to be a kid. I know it's crazy. You can have a boyfriend. You can go out. You can party. You can go to church. I'm selfish. I want it all, But what I do demand is when you're there, you're there. It's like you're in 100%. And the only way you get better is by training how you play, And I think you've got to have a style of play that you want to play, and you've got to have that belief. And detrimental or not for me, I just want to play the right way. I don't want to play the Barcelona way. I don't want to play the Real Madrid way. I want to play what's the best way for my team, So when we recruit what we like with potential. Because people will say, well, my assistant coaches will say, I've seen this kid play. I don't think she's good enough right now. And I'm like, yeah, that's right now, right? We're not looking at right now. We're looking at 9 months away or 8 months away. So potential is important. And you can always push people a little bit harder when you get them in school, and they can maybe fulfill that true potential. But if you give them an opportunity, you can do that. But you've got to look at the style we play. And like I said to you, in years gone by, we've played 4-4-2, been very successful with that. And then we switched to a 4-3-3, and we've been okay. We've been successful with that. But the problem I have is when you play against a 4-4-2, so the opposition, now we got to change the way we play. It can be, and because of communication, So we go to 2 marking backs and a free player, sweeper, whatever you want to call it. Not deep. We play high still, but we drop. And that really helps because there's no communication. How the hell can you don't need to tell someone I've got number 10 if she's in front of you. Whereas when they're playing that way, they just don't talk. And when we do talk, we're good, really good. But we can go for 2 or 3 games and not speak, They never shut up on the bus. They'll sing all the time, but they get on the fields. So, going back to the video, I think it's important to use it in the right moments, and not really overemphasize it. And again, when you're teaching a club program, you have a responsibility to develop all the kids, right? That's your job. My job at the college is to get my kids to matriculate, which means graduate, move through the system, get their associate's degree, and win some football games. And when you're coaching to win, you coach differently. I've gone games where I've not made a substitute in 8 matches. Because if the people here on the sidelines are not going to make a difference in the game, it's tough.
Yeah. And
then those players will say to me, how can I make a difference? And I tell them, that's practice, isn't it? That's in training. When we train and you're incomplete pass, you're a defender and your pass completion's about 50%, it's not going to happen.
Yeah.
And we don't have a bench. I learned this from the women's national team. We don't have a bench. We have difference makers. Those kids, they've got to come on and make a difference. If they don't make a difference, then they shouldn't be on the field. So they buy into that.
That's interesting. It's a good way to say it.
Well, because, I'm on the bench. Right? And they sulk. And then every time somebody goes in and is a difference maker, we make sure we highlight that. You know what I mean? At the end of the game, the staff will talk to them. You went on and what a difference you made. Because if you look at we're not the Premier League by any means, but if you look at all the teams in the Premier League, they're using 18 to 20 players right now. They never used to, but they are now, right? We've got this luxury of free substitution. You can go in and out, which is a good thing and a bad thing, you know? The bad part of it is when the players become the coach. So on your club team, Johnny will say, "Coach, I need a drink of water," and you'll take him out, right? Well, who's coaching the team now? The kid or you? The kid's coaching the team, right? So that's the thing we tell him. You ask to come out, and you might not go back in again for a while. So if it's an injury and it's a real injury, no problem. If it's an owie, my tape's too tight, then don't come up. But it happens.
Yeah.
And we've lost games because it's happened, you know.
Yeah.
So, you know, it's really hard though when the game's over and you've played 8 players and you've substituted 3 players. So you've played 14 players. And you've got to look at those kids that haven't played and their faces. That's the hardest thing as a coach, right? That's not what you get paid the big bucks for. That's the heartbreak. But
what do you say to them?
The team is the most important thing. It has to be about the team. Can't be about me. Can't be about the staff. Can't be about the best player. It's got to be about the best team. So they understand. You know, if they ask for feedback, we give them feedback. But not feedback like, you know, you'd say, like some coaches would say, you need to run more. Or you need to run faster. What the hell's that? Let's give them a reason, you know. You know, maybe the decision making when you're shooting is not correct. We need to fix that. How can we fix it? What can we do? What can we talk about to help you? Pass completion out the back. We play out the back. And that's got to be 75%.
Yeah.
It has to be.
If you can't complete your passes, you can't.
Right. So, you know, we have kids that are at 60%, and we tell them. We have people, if you're a red shirt in practice, you might be tracking someone's pass completions. Just watch Julie and see how many passes she completes. And then we'll go over and say, how many? Well, she made 10 and she completed 6. Okay. We go to Julie at 60%. It's got to be 80%. You've got to up it. You can't turn the ball over. We have that problem now. We've just lost a terrific player out the back. She was the free player, basically. What a soccer player. Beat to a different drum, but a great soccer player. So we played a practice game last week, and the girl that stepped in there had 7 turnovers on 7 passes.
Dang.
So and that girl was our MVP last year.
Huh.
But different role, different skill set. Defending one-on-one, she's brilliant. Stuck in. Thinking and playing, it's a whole different ball of game.
Yeah.
Right? So, you know, I said to the staff before we played last week, what do you think? Should we move her? And they were like, oh, no, she was so good last year. Okay, fine. In the spring, you need to give people, especially your staff, an opportunity to have that feedback. And so in the end, we moved, I think you know her because she works sometimes with, she works with the Surf. Her name's good player, very, very good midfield player, smart player. We moved her back into that role, never played there in her life. Played against Cal Poly Division 2 champions of the league last year. They beat us 8-0. They were good. But she went back in the second half. We gave up 3 goals. And she played really well, out of possession. And defending, she was okay. She just doesn't understand the dropping piece, you know. So as a coach, you've got to find those, haven't you? You've got to find, if you haven't got one. We don't have a goal scorer at Ventura College last year. We had a girl the 2 years previous that had 49 goals in 2 years.
Wow.
And we throw about 20 assists in. She was good. We didn't have that last year. So we had to fight for games, you know. So then it becomes more about transition, winning the ball. How can you...
Set pieces.
You spend so much time on trying to score goals. And then you get in front of goal. Against Cal Poly, we had a breakaway, 2 versus 1. The defender comes over. Our kid passes to our open player. And she hits off the side of her foot past the goal. All she needs to do is hit it. But, you know, it's kind of like you look at each other and you say, well, that's how we've been. So now we need a new set. You know, that's the great thing about not being at 4-year school. Because now you've got a whole bunch of new players coming in, right? So you can get excited about what can we do.
Interesting.
And it's a different challenge than being at Cal Lutheran.
Totally.
Because at Cal Lutheran, you had them for 4 years. So they didn't need to be the finished product as a freshman, just as a senior. Whereas here, you got to be the finished product. You know, you got to be finished pretty much coming in as a freshman, you know, the way the system is. So, but it's the difference between coaching males and females is not really much. It's all about soccer, but it is about the social interaction of the women. They enjoy it more. You get on the bus after losing, and they'll still laugh and enjoy themselves. The guys will pout a little bit, so that competitive edge maybe. And then most definitely, tactically, the women listen a lot more than the guys do. The guys are kind of, shut up, I'm doing my thing, right? And you got to battle that a little bit. But if you're a good coach, you can work through that. But I love coaching the female athletes because they'll do anything. They'll run through a brick wall for you if they believe in what you're doing. That's the key. You got to get everyone on the same page. That's the thing as a coach, isn't it? Whatever team you're with, you need buy-in. And even when we play teams and we struggle when they play super direct, you could turn around and say we need to change it, but we lose a lot of games in the playoffs to the Orange County teams, to the San Diego teams, because they play more direct than we do. So you could say, well, I'm going to change it because I want to do that. But I think about the winning part. We want to win. Obviously, it's a college. You want to be successful. But I also want the kids, if they get to go away to a school, they can go and play.
Yeah.
And you know what I mean? So you still, even though we might not make many changes, we might only use 8, 9 players, substitute-wise, we might only use 3. We still want them to grow and get better. Even the kids that are the difference makers that don't get in the game as much. But it's tough when you've got a kid that sits there and 5, 6 games, never plays. But normally, I always tell the staff this, everything works out because these kids you don't need to worry about selection process because the team selects themselves. Somebody won't come to practice for whatever reason, Somebody will be injured, So it really, it's like problem solved. You just don't want the certain players. Last year was fantastic for the team because we had 18 players that played over 50 minutes a game, which is unheard of in the last 10 years. Because normally it's like the year before, we had 8 players that played over 80 minutes a game. So, the squad really helps you, And that's the hard thing with the club program. You've got a team and you've got some kids that maybe aren't quite there yet, but you're still going to try and develop them. So for you, you've got to get them on the field somehow. When I coach club soccer, I always used to tell people, I'm going to play everybody. I want to do well in the league, but I'm going to play everybody. And then I just want one tournament that I go to that I can play the way I want to play, which was always the State Cup. So at State Cup, some kids might not get to play. It doesn't matter that you tell the parents up front, they still can play.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? They'll be like, what the hell? Why is he not playing? So they always think there's a quick fix.
Well, Hoffy, I appreciate it.
Anytime.
We'll have to do part 2 and keep going.
Anytime.